We all know there are movies out there that are so good they don't need to be remade. What if we look at it from the other end of the spectrum? What about movies that are so bad they deserve a remake? I am the Ranting Usher, and in this video, I'll be counting down my top 5 picks for movies that are so bad, so horrible, that a remake may be the only thing that saves them from living forever in infamy. Let me talk you out of your seat. Here are some dishonorable mentions. I Still Know What You Did Last Summer, Son-in-Law, Strange Days, Pet Sematary 2, and Dante's Peak. Number 5. Twister. Released in 1996 and directed by Jan de Bont, this action-adventure drama about two professional storm chasers joining together to combat extraordinary tornadoes while in the midst of a failed marriage is memorable mostly for its special effects and cinematography. They were created for 90s standards and likely still hold up today. Unfortunately, that's all the movie has going for it. Disaster movies don't usually have a decent track record when creating interesting characters, and they often suffer from poor casting choices. Twister is no exception. The chemistry between Bill Paxton and Helen Hunt is so forced, we don't care whether their marriage is rekindled or not. While their relationship may be germane to the plot, their interactions serve little purpose other than to provide filler between storm sequences. Interactions between supporting characters offer humor that is awkward at best, and may elicit an occasional snicker, but little else. A remake could potentially save this movie should a director step forward who can do a better job of juxtaposing the protagonist's marital frictions with the tornadoes themselves. That may offer greater depth to the film and make the characters more sympathetic. It might create an interesting dichotomy between human conflict and Mother Nature. An entirely new cast and natural-sounding dialogue couldn't hurt either. I would be in favor of a Twister remake should one come spinning into theaters sometime soon. How about you? Number 4. Lost in Space. Danger, Will Robinson, danger. Someone should have warned him that Stephen Hopkins' 1998 adaptation of this classic sci-fi TV series was apt to flop. This version of Lost in Space, starring William Hurt and Gary Oldman, is a survival story in which the Robinsons seek out a habitable planet to rescue humanity from pollution and global warming, a mission that is later sabotaged by terrorists. Admittedly, the movie succeeds in establishing an intended futuristic atmosphere prevalent in the TV series. However, the film's greatest fault is that it tries too hard to be a product of the 90s. Lost in Space is campy and cheesy. It doesn't take itself seriously and is considered a joke by many audiences. Not to mention that it's a glaring insult to die-hard fans of the original series. It's sad when you wish another remake would come along, not just because fans and average viewers feel filmmakers owe them an apology for the first remake, but so they can make us forget that this movie existed altogether. Better direction, perhaps J.J. Abrams would take on the project, a more serious script, modern special effects, and a whole new cast are in order. That's a remake I wouldn't mind getting lost in. Number 3. Book of Shadows. Blair Witch 2. Directed by Joe Berlinger and released in 2000, this Blair Witch Project sequel is about tourists curiously exploring macabre legends surrounding Burkittsville, Maryland, before succumbing to their greatest fears. The film has glaring time errors. It leaps back and forth between flashbacks in order to illuminate what's going on in the present. The problem is that filmmakers fail to focus on the present long enough for viewers to follow the story. Book of Shadows includes one-dimensional, attention-seeking characters, some of them Wiccan, who share stilted and awkward dialogue. Dialogue exchanged between the kids in the Addams Family sounds more natural. Viewers complained about the shaky camcorder in the first movie. They said it made them feel sick. Who would have thought the cinematography in a Hollywood film would be even more nauseating? Book of Shadows contains clumsy editing. Random scenes of a miscarriage are interspersed throughout the film, and yet they are hardly relevant to the Blair Witch hunt supposedly going on in the forest. Come to think of it, how does anything in this movie even remotely connect to the Blair Witch? How does anything in this movie even remotely connect to the Book of Shadows, for that matter? We neither saw nor heard anything about this book. Even the sisters in Charmed would have been like, I think it's safe to say that a remake couldn't possibly make this film any dumber or more confusing. Should filmmakers bring in a more competent director, far better writers, cinematographers, actors, and editors who are committed to sticking to the Blair Witch source material, I just might give it another chance. Maybe they'll help us all to forget that this shitstorm of a sequel ever happened. Number 2. Speed 2, Cruise Control. Director Jan de Bont strikes again, this time with an unnecessary sequel to Speed, the original action-packed summer blockbuster. Cruise Control appears to be an ironic title. De Bont doesn't seem to assert control over anything in this movie. That includes the plot. A hacker breaks into the Seabourn Legend cruise liner's database and sends the ship on a collision course with a massive oil tanker. The plot may seem straightforward. However, things happen that don't make any sense. For example, Cruise Control opens with a lame chase that doesn't tie in with any of the other events whatsoever. Clearly, de Bont must have thrown the chase scene in there because he was trying to pay homage to what has gone on before. Only it doesn't work. I think Jan de Bont attempted to justify the sequence because the movie is called Speed. Things are meant to go fast, even if there's no reason for them to do so. Way to keep audiences riveted. Perhaps you should take a lesson in storytelling from Steve Martin in Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. Sandra Bullock. I know the casting directors must have wanted you to come back for Cruise Control, but I wish you hadn't. It pains me to see you waste your talents. I'm glad to see you've moved on to bigger and better things and left Cruise Control to crash and burn far behind you. Willem Dafoe is really hamming it up, isn't he? He looks like a schizophrenic circus clown who forgot to take his meds and put on his makeup. One more thing. I never thought I would say this, but please bring Keanu Reeves back. Speed 2 isn't the same without him. I know sequels don't get remade very often, but in the case of Speed 2, Cruise Control, I pray Hollywood can make an exception. However they remake it can only be an improvement from this horrendous shipwreck. The number one movie that's so bad, so horrible, that it deserves a remake is Howard the Duck. Do I even have to explain this one? Alright, for those of you fortunate enough not to have laid eyes on this phenomenal asshat of a movie, Howard the Duck, released in 1986 and directed by Willard Hughes, is about a humanoid duck plucked from his home planet to thwart an alien invader on Earth. An absurd premise, I know. Howard the Duck isn't just one of the worst movies to come out of the 80s. It's one of the worst movies of all time. The characters, the plot, the editing, the dialogue, costuming, set design, etc. are pathetic. The movie is as well thought out as a comic book meant for kindergartners. Even the acting is weak. Surprisingly, fairly decent actors like Jeffrey Jones, Tim Robbins, and Leah Thompson, among them, all star in this. Now they would probably do the truffle shuffle naked in front of a firing squad rather than admit they were associated with this project. Maybe if Howard the Duck was an animated movie, the actors who don't want their faces shown can provide the voices. Howard isn't even a likable character. He's pretentious, cynical, and stupid. I wish Nintendo had featured Howard in Duck Hunt so I could have blasted him into a million feathers. A remake is long overdue. I suggested earlier that maybe this should be an animated movie. If you think about it, it does make sense. It would undoubtedly force filmmakers to put more time and effort into the world they're trying to create. It would also be more fun, more whimsical, more dazzling, perhaps even family-friendly. Should a feature-length animated remake happen, yours truly would be extremely relieved. Even if it doesn't quite turn out the way I described above, it would still be of a higher quality than this quacking 1980s travesty. I can't believe a movie this bad could be produced during such a revolutionary decade. Do you agree with my list? What movies do you think need to be remade? Let me know in the comments down below. Thank you for watching the video. I am the Ranting Usher. As always, feel free to click like, subscribe for more videos, and have a great day.